We all saw the video. We all saw the ratchet that you got. We saw effortless. I'm lefty right now. The effortless motion. I just want to know, can I borrow? That's what I do. That's what I do. Can I borrow that?
Did you notice, by the way, that I wasn't sure with the mask on that everybody had properly heard me. I had to pull it down and repeat it.
You gotta let them know. Listen. Then you hit him with the Larry Bird, put the finger up as you walked out. I know.
Yeah, just let them know. Look, the best thing about that shot, I got the dish, I got the feed from Joe Biden's granddaughter, Maisie Biden.
You can't make this stuff up, man.
Who she was campaigning with her granddad, and she was one of Sasha's best friends. And I had coached her in rec league when she was 8. And she was like the LeBron James of the league. I mean, she was really good. And she was just out there. We were in the gym and we were just shooting. And so just as I was walking out, I said, Maisie.
On time, on target pass.
Well, and it just goes to show, it all comes full circle,
Absolutely. We've played golf plenty of times before. I know we've been on the same team once. We've been on opposite teams. I think I played a lot better when I was with you than I did with Peyton. Let's just put it that way.
So the question was I assume it wasn't Chuck that was intimidating in that situation.
No, Chuck. Well, the only thing that Chuck did, he played dumb leading up to the match, talking about his swing and all this stuff. And I saw his swing on the range right before, and I knew we were in trouble at that point. So
listen, I watched a little bit of it. Steph is a unbelievable golfer, much better golfer than I am. But
there's always a but.
Well, the but is that if you play against a Hall of Fame professional golfer, all Chuck had to do was get it in some grass, and he will get the next shot on the green, right? 100%. And it really didn't matter where it was. So, and Chuck was a better putter than I expected.
That is for sure. He definitely, if it was anywhere around the green, he knew exactly what to do. We got disconnected. I was a little nervous.
I think it's fair to say that I had a lot of help.
Off camera, I got some support staff that gave me a little assist too, so it's all good.
How you doing, man? How's the family? How was Thanksgiving?
I'm doing great. Thanksgiving was great. It was a good time. Had a nice small gathering at the house, a little meal Aisha threw down. It was amazing.
I know she did. She can throw down.
She can throw down. The pressures that we all feel like we face. I know as fathers, whatever career path you've chosen, trying to provide for your family, there's always that balance of pressure, right, between finding success in your career versus, being there, being present with your family. Right. And I can't imagine if we feel this, as a professional athlete and any other walk of life, that as the president of the United States, it felt exponentially higher. And I just kind of want to start there in terms of, having been through 8 years of your presidency and now, out of office. How would you frame that experience of balancing all the pressures in life, knowing that you wanted to succeed at everything?
Well, look, I think that a lot of the book, it talks about the fact that the White House is obviously different and the presidency is different. In a lot of ways, it's a job, and the White House was where my family was living, and the same kinds of issues that I think we all struggle with, that was part of our journey. A lot of times during my political career, Michelle wasn't feeling the amount of time and stress that I had to devote to what I was doing. She believed in the work, but she also felt as if this was exposing our family to stresses and putting us out there in ways that she didn't always feel comfortable with. I'm pretty honest in the book about, she was not wild about me running for president. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame her, because we had already gone through a lot. Even before I had run for president, I'd been involved in a U.S. Senate race, and I was traveling the country and missing events at home. And the burden was on her, because one difference between being a U.S. Senator running for president and let's say a all NBA basketball player,
right,
you still have some financial strains when you are a U.S. senator, and you got two households, and because I was going back and forth from Washington to back to Chicago, and I described in the book, I said, look, times were tight. Michelle had to work still. She's got two little kids, so figuring that out was challenging. One of the things that I write about that we were worried about was how would it be to raise kids in that kind of environment. And I know you and Aisha are experiencing some of this. Just by virtue of their being your kids, they're in the limelight in some ways. And Michelle and I understood, I think, kind of early on that that's a double-edged sword. And we wanted them to have a normal experience of growing up and being able to make mistakes and not being scrutinized and commented on about every single thing that they did. And we also wanted to make sure suddenly, we're living like normal middle-class folks, and then the next thing you know, they're butlers. And, as we talk about the fact that, we had to tell the staff at the White House, look, the girls have to clean their rooms. We're not having them clean their rooms.
Principles, discipline.
Yeah, they need to learn how to do that. And we were worried, would they end up somehow not having a sense of reality? And that part of the reason I think we were able to keep them grounded was because we ourselves reminded ourselves, look, we're just here temporarily. This is a blessing. It's an opportunity to serve, but this is not who we are. And it helped also to have my mother-in-law. Anybody who knows Michelle's mom, she's like salt of the earth, no pretension, wouldn't put up with any kind of attitudes or fuss out of Malia and Sasha, and that really helped. And I'm sure you guys with your grandparents can be lifesavers.
They can. They have been in our experience for sure. Absolutely. Especially when they carry the same temperament and perspective as you in terms of not getting too big headed. Like you have the highest office in the land, and that could mean a lot of great things. But your kids don't have they don't have that.
That's my mother-in-law literally said that to Malia and Sasha. They were acting up one time, and she looked at him and she said, Y'all do understand you haven't done nothing. Y'all are just along for the ride.
It's real talk, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you get elected president someday, maybe
you can tell me what to do. Yeah,
but not now. Go do your homework.
I know as like a father, you have a sense of leadership, and you need to direct and make those tough decisions. And obviously, you and Michelle battling through the ups and the downs together. But in terms of like the leadership perspective, obviously you're also accountable for a staff and an administration that is looking at you for guidance and leadership. And they can't compare me and my locker room to the White House, but in terms of the position I'm in and being the oldest guy in the locker room and having leaned into that leadership,
you're an old man.
I didn't say all that. I just said I'm the oldest. That can mean I'm a young old. So in terms of leaning into that leadership and mentorship side, are there any examples of where that materialized for during your first term, and some tough decisions or some ways that you leaned into that role as president?
Well, one mistake I think a lot of people make is to think that you're just either born a leader or you're not. When in fact leadership is like anything else; it's a skill. And there are a bunch of different ways to do it. I've known people who were great leaders, but were really soft-spoken and weren't always trying to seek attention. I think that the thing I try to communicate in the book, and I learned this. I wasn't always perfect at it. Number one was realizing that the most important thing a leader does is they set a tone in terms of culture of a team, whether the team is a basketball team or a business or an administration. And so what are the values around which you are organizing yourselves? One of the things I'm most proud about during my administration is we never had a scandal. And the reason was that, I felt it was really important, if you have been elected to serve people, that's why you're there. And we were very clear to everybody who was serving, look, if you're here because of something other than service, then this is probably not a good fit for you. If you're interested in leveraging this to make money somewhere down the line, well, there are a lot of other ways of making money than being in public service. If you're interested in the attention, well, you know what? Right now, we got a job to do. So I think being clear about what your values are as an organization, that's part of leadership. The second thing, and this I know you can relate to because there's a direct analogy in basketball or any team sport, is figuring out how do you help the people around you succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
And so one of the things I learned in the White House and in my campaign, I'll use a campaign story as a better example. I would not have won the presidency if I had not won Iowa, because that was the first big test, the first state where you have an election contest back in 2007, 2008. And, it was 98% white, a lot of rural voters. People didn't think that somebody of my profile could win that state. And the reason we won is not because I was the best candidate. The reason we won was because I trusted this amazing staff who knew Iowa, who were great organizers. They in turn hired a bunch of young people, many of them fresh out of college or didn't have a huge lot of experience, but we trusted them to go into these little towns, talk about what we were about, talk about healthcare and jobs, but also listen to people, find out what they believed in, what they cared about. And at the end of the day, the reason I won was because we had empowered this whole team of people to go out, and they made relationships and figured out what our message should be and brought people to the polls, or in that case, the caucuses. And I think that's the second thing about leadership that I always try to emphasize. If you can figure out how to empower the other folks on your team so they're doing great, that's good for you. And by the way, they'll feel good about your leadership because they're seeing that you're invested in their success. And I think the mistake a lot of folks make is to think being a leader is how do I dominate and stay on top of other folks.
Right.
And if you have that kind of approach, your organization, whatever it is not going to be as good as it should be. And by the way, you're not going to have the same tight bonds, so that when inevitably something goes wrong, you got other people to pick each other up.
100%. You said surrounding yourself with good people that have similar mindset in terms of what is the ultimate goal. And to your point, the opportunity to have that shared experience of success, and it's not being all about you is right. I got some construction going on around here, so hopefully you can still hear me.
That's all right. I can hear you fine.
But that's important. I feel like every time you see us on the floor celebrating championships, and even if you don't win, there's still that respect of the people that's from your right and your left that you get to go to war with. When they look at the top and they can see that authentic approach that you just mentioned around. Do you have their best interest, even if you don't agree all the time, even if there's some hard times, hard conversations, that you always have that sense of we call it trust, care, and commitment. I learned that back at Davidson. Coach McKill used to say, like, you can have all type of tough spots and disagreements and growth, but at the end of the day, that authenticity of looking out for each other, knowing that you don't achieve anything successful by yourself, you got to live that out. And so,
no, that's exactly right. I mean, probably the book ends with the raid to get Bin Laden, and I kind of lay out step by step how that happened. And when you look at all the moving parts and the hundreds of people who, under complete secrecy, had to, operate at the highest levels and trust each other, everybody from the intelligence folks who figured out meticulously the detective work to figure out where he was, to the Navy SEALs who, built a whole compound just like the compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and practiced and trained, to the translator who, in case the neighbors came around as the helicopters landed, could tell folks, oh, this is just a military affair, go back into your houses, to the dog, the canine, who was on the helicopters, and to the diplomats who had to manage the fallout. You look, and it's a perfect example of what you described, and that's part of why I end the book, because I want people to see when government works, when any important thing happens, it is because we're doing it as a group, collectively, with a shared sense of mission. And when that falls apart, I don't care how much talent, how much money, it will not work. Things will break down. And that's, I think, one of the biggest themes of the book, because that applies to America as a whole. Right?
100%.
We're in a moment where we're really divided right now. And it's just really important for us to remind ourselves, when we send a man to the moon, or we defeat, the Axis powers in World War II and defeat fascism, or any of the seminal moments of American history. There may have been a leader who helped make that happen, but it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, who are involved in that success, and that's, I think, has to be where we get to. That's why I called this book A Promised Land. Mm-hmm. We're not there, just like Exodus and coming out of bondage. We're right now in the midst of that wandering, 40 years in the desert, and it may be it's our kids or our grandkids who get there. But what I know is that in the same way biblically, when folks start turning on each other and worshiping false idols, it makes us more lost. If we're to make progress as a country, it's going to be because we get past some of these divisions that have in some cases been around for hundreds of years.
Like when you come out and you give your speeches, or when you have that stature about you, I always have this kind of imagination that right before you come out, like you and Michelle just had some real serious conversation. She gave you some good wisdom right before you turn the corner, because that's my experience with Aisha. That's what I know. She keeps it real, and always kind of there's a little gem of some kind of idea that I wasn't even thinking about. I'm like, you know what, you're right. I need to implement that into what I'm doing. Can you kind of maybe give us an example of maybe a hard decision that Michelle was instrumental in helping you land in the right spot, or somewhere that she influenced the way that you presented yourself?
I think we've been married almost 30 years now, and so she's so woven up in me, and like I don't even know. Well, did I used to be like that, or
right?
Has she just been training me all this time? So now I'm this way. It's interesting though, a lot of times with Michelle, in really stressful moments, the thing that she's really good at is actually making me laugh. Like I write about how right before the Democratic National Convention speech in 2004, which, I'm doing the math real quickly, but I guess you were, what, in 8th grade or something?
Whatever
that was, right? So you don't remember this.